Attention Caribbean authors and creators. Are you looking to elevate your literary journey? This is Kevin George, your host and presenter from TLC Tropical Literature Creatives, and I'm thrilled to share an exciting opportunity with you, introducing our bespoke promotional services designed exclusively for authors of Caribbean heritage. Whether you're a seasoned professional or a rising star, we're here to amplify your voice. From getting the word out about your book launch, your self-publishing services, or workshops, to sharing services that you offer to fellow authors and creatives. Visit our website or reach out to us today to explore how we can tailor our expertise to showcase your literary brilliance. Let's unlock the next chapter of success together. Greetings, listeners. Welcome to TLC Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about themselves and about their literary works. Today we have with us Alake Pilgrim, author of the book Zoe and the Forest of Secrets. Alake, welcome to Tropical Literature Creatives.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. You are no stranger to writing. According to your portfolio, you have done a couple of short stories, and you even have your MA in creative writing. How long ago did you get your qualifications in creative writing?
Well, I actually got these qualifications in 2016 to 2017. So in the UK, MAs are typically 1 year, and but it was quite a circuitous journey to get there that maybe we could talk about. But that's when I graduated in 2017 from the MA in creative writing at the University of East Anglia in the UK.
In Trinidad and Tobago, one of the major forms of income comes from the energy sector, and a lot of persons, seek to find qualifications, as being engineers of various forms. Why do you choose to get your qualifications in creative writing as opposed to one of the traditional, areas of qualification that persons pursue?
Yes, the standard thing when you study English or anything in humanities here in Trinidad is, what are you going to do with that? Teach? I know that's a standard question. And I had those fears as well. I think everybody in the creative industries around the world, in most places, especially in places like where we come from, where the industry part of it isn't as fully established, you might have a question, how am I going to live? So that was something I struggled with for a long time because I've been writing since I was a child, and love books and love stories. So I really worried about, if I choose this as a career, how am I going to live? But I did undergrad. When I came home after my undergrad, I was working in marketing and communications. I fell into that field because it's kind of writing adjacent. But I just always kept writing. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll go into academia. I'll do a PhD and become a professor. And I went to NYU to study Latin American and Caribbean studies, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great program. But I realized that my love and the excitement that I felt in creative writing wasn't the same in academic style writing, which is a different form, for the most part. And then I just decided, you know what? I was back home. I had worked as a documentary script writer on a project. I loved it. And I just thought, Alake, you're going to have to leap. You have to take a leap of faith at some point. And I applied actually to MFA programs, Master of Fine Arts programs in the US in creative writing. Got in, delayed several times, didn't accept certain acceptances that I'd received from universities out of fear. And delayed until finally I got into a program in Louisiana, said yes. It was a 3-year MFA in creative writing. And I started it. I did the first year, and in doing the first year, I was actually pregnant with my child. After, it was an interesting time. It was here I was finally pursuing the dream and have this baby on the way. And it was a great first year. However, when my son was born, he was born extremely ill. So I ended up choosing to withdraw from that program because I needed support in caring for him.
Wow. Okay. There's a question, something that came up there that I want to ask about later on. You spoke about, writing full time, but I'll get back to that question a bit later because it's something that comes up. I'll get back to that question. Doing a lot of writing where short stories are concerned. and then you made the transition from writing short stories to actually doing like a full-fledged book. What influenced your decision to figuratively jump ship, so to speak, from short stories and actual book?
Yeah, well, I haven't jumped ship. I love short stories still, and I expect to write a collection of short stories someday. I think nowadays, and this may have been so in the past as well, I don't think writers are so easily defined by the length of their works or even by genre, right?
Hmm.
Um, writers can enjoy writing many different kinds of things, but the big shift for me wasn't so much length from short. Well, that was tough from short story to writing a longer work. But what was also a big shift was I was writing for adults. Initially, my work was literary, what they call literary fiction for adults. It was darker, heavier subject matter. And I had been working on this story that ended up becoming Zoe,
Hmm.
kind of behind the scenes for a while. But it was only after I graduated from the program at UVA, when my son had, by that time, miraculously, I mean, as an actual miracle,
Hmm.
recovered, that I just realized that the passion and love and excitement in my writing were leading me more to work more and more on this story. And I
Hmm.
began to discover in conversations with people that it really was more of a children's book. It can be enjoyed by adults, but it's it kids and teens can really love it. And it made perfect sense at that point in my life because it was almost like a love letter to my son in progress.
Okay. I mean, seeing that, that the book would have been intended for children, but coming read for adults as well. Has he read the book? I mean, what are his thoughts about the book? I mean, just
So
curious.
he's 8. Yeah, no, see, he's 8, so he hasn't fully read the book yet because the book is more for 9 and up. It's a bit longer than, say, a typical picture book or a shorter book that gets kids started in reading. This is more for the kids who are like standard 3 and up,
Hmm.
and into secondary school. But he has started the book and he is excited. He keeps trying to get me to tell him what happens at the end. I'm like, no, dude, you're gonna have to read the whole thing from beginning to end when you're ready and find out for yourself. But I think more so just actually seeing that his mom wrote a book, that
Hmm.
is hopefully having a big impact on him. I had a video on my Instagram a long time ago, where when the copies came, he held
Yeah.
it and he was like, he read my name in it, and he was like, "Mommy, this is you wrote this," and that was priceless. That was priceless. Yeah.
No, and I personally think that makes an impression because when it is that our kids see us achieve certain things in them, in our minds, certain barriers become broken down. They see, here's what this is possible. Mommy did it. That means that I can probably do it too. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
quite
I hope
interesting.
so. And I hope so for all the children who read it, actually. One of the joys with this book has been when I get to read to children and to teens, going into schools in the UK. I got to go to libraries and schools here in Trinidad to for at the Vocus Lit Fest or going out to schools. The children, especially what I was surprised at is how much the boys are responding. Girls love it, but I didn't necessarily know it has a main character that's a girl and a boy. But I
Mhm.
realized the boys are like flocking to Zoe. Maybe it's the action, maybe it's the creatures, I don't know, maybe it's the scare factor of some of it, but they seem to be loving it. And it makes me excited because growing up, you would know, we didn't have this kind of genre, the fantasy and sci-fi with, creatures and, such magical tales. We didn't really have that set in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
I loved those books, but they were always set somewhere else. So now
Yeah.
it's kind of exciting. I'm not the only one. Now we have kind of a crew coming up who are setting books like that right here in the Caribbean, and I think it's great for our kids.
No, no, and that is exciting as well because I mean we have a really great backdrop in the Caribbean, and here it is, we have different genre being introduced here. So that is exciting. That is exciting. Um,
Yeah,
in
let me pull some names. Like actually, there right now people who are interested, maybe family members, parents, listening, teachers, just people who love the genre of fantasy and sci-fi. For
Mhm.
kids, we have Josephine Against the Sea and Nightmare Island from Shakira, born in Barbados. We
Mhm.
have for older, kind of teens, older teens, YA. We have Kevin Jarrett, who wrote Beast of Cuckoo. We have Imam Baksh from Guyana. Kevin is from Trinidad. Imam Baksh is from Guyana, and he wrote Children of the Spider and some other YA books. So yeah, and for adults who love fantasy, well, of course, we have Karen Lord, Dr. Karen Lord from Barbados and others. So yeah, there's a growing crop of fantasy and sci-fi books coming out of writing.
I mean, it's an exciting time in the Caribbean for literature.
It is.
In terms of the age groups, what has the response been to persons who would have read the book? The reason I ask is because I was talking with a literature teacher recently, and her point of view is that, I mean, literature isn't as popular as it used to be because persons seem to gravitate towards like the sciences and so on, etc. I mean, what's your opinion about that point of view?
I think we have to just make the books exciting to the teens and kids. Now, I mean, the competition, I think, so much isn't necessarily even from science or engineering. I think the competition is from TV, right? And digital media like phones and social media, right? Um, but I don't necessarily know that if we have to view it as a competition. Maybe we just um put out work that actually is exciting and appeals to the teens, right? Yes, we also want them to read um our classic Caribbean literature. Yes, we also want them to read about contemporary literature that isn't necessarily, replete with fantastical elements. But I think when we look at the love of, say, the Marvel series, the Marvel Avengers, that whole franchise, that whole universe, we kind of realize kids are being drawn to uh, some adventure and excitement, and fantasy mixed in with the very real world. And I think that's probably why there's an opportunity here to attract teens to this kind of book.
Okay, okay. I mean, while we're talking about teenagers, I wanted to just look at things from a different perspective. Being an entrepreneur, do you think that enough is being done to make the prospect of being a writer full time be appealing to persons who are teenagers who are leaving secondary school to go into the world of work?
Yeah, no, I definitely think more needs to be done. I mean, I'll highlight what is being done, and then hopefully people who hear this, and by people, I mean people in policy and government, or people in the private sector who have funds. Hopefully, someone hears this and sees a space of opportunity. Because what the Bogus Lit Fest has done is really do exactly that, trying to show people that writing is an art, it's also a career. It's also like the foundation for what are essentially multi-billion-dollar industries around the world. I'm talking about the film industry. The film industry is there's like right now there's a huge strike in the US. The Writers Guild of America is on strike, and all those new TV shows that were supposed to be coming out, streaming shows and movies, they're on hold because
Oh,
guess what? Films and TV series are based on writers.
ah,
So, I think making that link between, say, film TT and film production, festivals like the TT Film Festival, the Africa Film TT Festival, and making those links between film and literature, like Focus and other festivals like Calabash in Jamaica, and writers, that might be like a huge space of opportunity for people to be able to actually develop careers in writing. But you see, it's a lot of building behind the scenes that needs to go into making a film industry work in the Caribbean and um, developing writers to help build that as well. I hope that makes sense. That was a long answer.
no, that makes perfect sense because I have a particular point of view. Personally, I'm into biking. I like to ride, and I was talking with a gentleman who is in the industry, and he was telling me about a biking event that happens in Jamaica, and it's very big. And it's big not just because of the cyclists and the persons who attend, but it also helps the local economic industry. How Let me just describe how it works. Say, for example, persons come and they want to partake in a bike trail in Trinidad, let's say, for example, we're riding from, and let's just say, for example, from Chaguanas to San Fernando. After we leave from Chaguanas and we get to San Fernando, we have a bunch of cyclists who are hungry and thirsty. And we park up by crossing San Fernando, and we have a number of food carts. And you know what we do? We buy stuff to eat, we buy stuff to drink, we refresh ourselves, and that
Yeah.
is it for the evening. Now, when it is that you had mentioned Buka Lit Fest, at the point in time, a number of writers had come to the country. And I'm thinking that that might be a possibility to some sort of stimulus, economy-wise, to persons who are here locally. What if writers come and, after, the activities at the literary festival, they go around the savannah, they are introduced to local cuisine. They go to the laboratory
Yeah,
and, they see some of the tourist sites as well. So all these things can
I'm
help.
pretty sure that, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And I mean, I think, just again, encouraging people at the Ministry of Tourism, people in the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. I'm sure they already know this and they're already on this, but also encouraging our private companies to really think about this and realize that the way that the Caribbean is largely known in the world, for people who want to like uh, advertise, so to speak, or market the Caribbean to the world, the Caribbean is known to the world largely right now in two ways.
Mm-hmm,
Through, whether that traditional tourist matrix of beaches and so on, but also through culture. The
mm-hmm.
Caribbean is known to the world through music, festivals, writing, culture. That is how, if you go to China, I was in China many years ago, decades ago, as a student, and we were in this very remote place, what I thought is remote, a remote town. I look up and there's a huge sign, a huge picture of Bob Marley, and a sign saying a reggae restaurant. So I run to the restaurant thinking I'm going to bounce up Jamaicans, right? I'm excited, fellow Caribbean people. And inside were only people from the town, Chinese people from the town, who spoke no English.
Oh
But
my,
the restaurant was full of Jamaican music, of reggae, of Bob Marley, but also just literature from Marcus Garvey, and I was like, it blew my mind. And I
ah,
couldn't even communicate with the people fully to find out how or why they'd gotten into this. But I suspect it was through Bob Marley's music. So,
ah,
there's so much obvious opportunity here.
mm,
I think we just need those with the funding and with the capacity to make decisions at a high level to just recognize the opportunity that's already at play and just put some more conscious support behind the things that have already been started to support writers, musicians, filmmakers, etc., from this region as a whole.
yeah, okay. I mean, very exciting, very exciting, very exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I'm not the first to say this. This is like common conversation in the arts in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah.
I mean, it'll be really good if, this kind of conversation happens at different levels and that, action is taken coming out of it.
Mhm. I think perhaps what is going to happen and what's already happening is that we have things building, right? So we have these festivals, not to mention Carnival, but I mean, we also have, as I said, these festivals in other spheres as well that
Mhm,
have now been established for a number of years and are building. We have we do have these bodies in the government like Film TT, Ministry of Tourism, and others. And then we have really just independent artists who I think are building links across the region and diaspora, because that's the other thing. I think obviously we have a population of 1.5 million people. Some
mhm,
in some countries that's not even a village, right? So if
mhm,
we're just thinking of only Trinidad and Tobago as the place to share our work, yes, it's the place that should inspire and be the roots of something that we're creating if we live here. But we want to share our work more widely. And so a lot of the times I used to think, oh, I need to share my work in the UK and the US among, let's just say it, a primarily white audience. And so I used to be kind of, when I was younger, consumed with how do I reach that audience? How do I translate myself and Trinidad and my work to that audience? I think more than ever, people are really letting go of that and realizing that the audience is broad. It's people in Nigeria, in Kenya, it's people in India with the links that we have here culturally to India. It's people in, it's like a range of people, and it's also diasporic people, people who
mhm,
come from the Black and brown diaspora. So the possibilities are really huge. Yeah.
mhm. Correct, correct, correct. All right. I mean, very exciting conversation. I mean, I know, but I'm here to, we just, segued there a bit. But I want to ask you
Uh,
about you and your book and everything else.
also, yes, so let's not forget Zoe, yes.
Just so you said, oh, Zo, yes, yes, we'll get
Yes,
back to
yes,
that.
yes.
All right. But about Zoo, one
Mhm.
of the things that makes Zoo stand out is that it's set in Trinidad and Tobago, as opposed to like maybe like the UK or the US or even Australia. Why did you choose to have the book set in Trinidad and Tobago?
Because this is where I live, this is where I'm from. Again, thankfully now that seems obvious. There was a time in the past when that wasn't as obvious, maybe in this genre in particular. Of course, we have a long literary history, thankfully, from Trinidad and Tobago and Caribbean. We have people who paved the way for us, from the Sam Salvons, the Earl Lovelaces, the Derek Walcotts. Then we have a whole wave as well of women authors. I'm talking Broadwell, Lorna Goodison, Olive Senior. And then now we have, that line continues to spread and expand and shift with the contemporary writers who are known, from Trinidad and Tobago and from the Caribbean. I can't name them all. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Mhm.
So now I think because of all that groundwork that's been said, because of all those sacrifices and all of those efforts, to me it was obvious to write in the place where I'm from. Yeah.
All right. And how has that worked out? How has the reception been?
It's been good in terms of when it actually reaches to children, the reception is amazing. They love the book. Teachers have loved the book. I've had the pleasure. So the publisher is Nightsoul. It's actually run by a woman who is her family's originally from Jamaica. She was born and raised in England, Amy Filone, and a group Filone, sorry, and her group of amazing women who themselves come from families of immigrants and different people based in the UK. And they founded this publishing house called Nightsoul.
Hmm.
And Nightsoul is committed to publishing books where children from all different backgrounds can see themselves as the stars of the books. And, it's just been a joy working with them. I got to go, as I said, to schools and libraries in London, in Manchester, in Birmingham. And it was really exciting to meet kids from all these different backgrounds who felt connected to and excited by Zoe. I would say that it's been a bit more of a challenge getting the book widely shared in Trinidad because
Oh.
most of our bookstores order books directly from the US. So getting the book all the way from the UK for them was a bit of
Mhm.
a stretch. And then in this genre of fantasy, again, most of if you go to our bookshelves, most of the books in fantasy would be again US based books. But Paper Bates at the Hotel Normandy is a bookshop that carries it. Now it's also online. It's an online bookshop called Pure Fun Books. People can
Mhm.
just Google that or check it out on social media, run by another writer called Lisa Henry.
Mhm.
And so bit by bit, we're getting the book here. And I also have copies for sale. So we're getting the book into Trinidad bit by bit,
Ah,
you know.
okay, okay.
Mhm.
Self-publishing is a thing. It's growing in popularity. Obviously, when the time came to publish your book, you would have had to weigh the pros and the cons between self-publishing and going through the traditional route. I mean, what prompted your decision to make the decision that you did?
Uh, for me, I would still be open to self-publishing. I think, again, just like with not writing in only one genre or only in one length, I think writers today don't have to limit themselves. You don't have to say, I will only be traditionally published or I will only be self-published. Probably over the course of a writing life, you might publish in all kinds of different ways depending on what you want. So in my case, I initially thought, let me go with a publisher, whether in this case, a small independent publishing house because I did not necessarily think that I could do all of the work to promote the book, say in other countries that like the UK, that like they could do and have done because they're based there. But for future books, I wouldn't be opposed to self-publishing either. I think it's a great way to be in control of how your book is shared and where it's shared. It's just that people have to know and really respect self-publishing is so much work. I've met so many self-published children's authors here in Trinidad since I published So since book So came out. And
Hmm.
I have so much respect because just like other authors, but even more so, they have to do all of their own promotion, and they need support too. So, now that's also happening where you have book promoters and publicists and distributors slowly, slowly growing as um, career choices and as an industry here in the region. So that's another thing. For people who love writing, you can be a writer, you can be a screenwriter, you can be a journalist, but you can also be the person behind the scenes who publishes, distributes, markets, and promotes books. So
Ah,
it's just a wide field.
no, I mean that sounds interesting because
Mhm.
you're making it say, well, I mean, from talking with you, I mean the field of writing and publishing, you don't just have to be a writer, that there are various other rules in the supply chain to get the book from
Exactly.
author to the shelf that can make persons be of use to the entire process.
Exactly. And those fields are actually in demand in the Caribbean. If someone decides to become a literary agent, that is the person who reads people's work, helps them refine it, and then helps them by selling it to a publisher, publishing houses anywhere in the world, as well as here in the region. That literary agent is also a job and a career in huge demand in the Caribbean because I don't think we have any regionally based literary agents, and not to mention the actual, as I said, publishers or freelance publicists. They are also in huge demand because of how many people are self-publishing their work but don't have all of that time and
Mhm.
bandwidth to publicize it for themselves.
Ah, all right, all right. Um, Recently, I would have attended Boca Lit Fest, and I believe you were one of the persons who were in charge of a panel discussion. I believe it was yourself, Miss Sherry Jones, and also Miss Sharma Taylor. Um, would you
Correct.
would you say that in addition to being an author, that coming out of that, that other opportunities have arisen for you? For example, being like again, just being in charge of this panel discussion, have you been invited to any other speaking engagements? Has your opinion been sought on matters of literary interest or anything like that?
No, well, not so much. Well, I mean, what the link has been more with the Boca's Children's Lit Fest as well. So at the Children's Lit Fest, which I encourage families to come out to next year at the end of April,
Hmm.
I got to be on a panel with another children's book author called Danielle McLean. She's based in the US, but she's from Trinidad, and she has a fantasy book set here as well, an amazing series called Secrets of Oscuros.
Hmm.
And on that panel were also two authors who were actually children. And
Ah.
that was so inspiring. I had, please go check them out. Corin is one of the authors. The other author, his book is called My Pet Hamster. And you need to go check out these kids whose books are not just any kind of book, their books are beautifully illustrated, well written, and yeah, so the opportunities that I see opening up are more direct lines to kids, going into school and working with the kids. Because the good thing about Zoo is this fantasy, exciting, action-packed adventure, but it's
Mhm.
set in the environment in Trinidad, in the mangrove swamps, in the beaches, in the caves of Trinidad, the different habitats on the island. So what my dream and hope is to actually use those to encourage the kids of our country to love and protect the environment. So
Ah.
that kind of program, going to schools to work with them to enjoy the reading of it, but also learning to write for themselves. And that third component, which is loving and learning about and protecting the environment, that
Mhm.
kind of three-pronged project is what I'd like to do in schools.
Ah, all right. Interesting. Interesting. I just want to touch on Buka Lit Fest a bit. Well, when I
Mhm.
attended, I was in a discussion with someone, or rather, I had attended a panel discussion, and one of the persons in the audience had a question. And the question was along the lines of AI, because AI seems to be a popular and growing trend.
Mm.
And I didn't
Mhm.
realize how much it would have affected writing. What's your opinion about AI and writing for Caribbean writers?
Yeah, I have mixed views. My brother and I joke sometimes that AI is going to be great until it kills us. Um, I mean, I think that, as much as we laugh, there are actually, international debates and studies and think tanks kind of looking into the potential harmful uses of AI, from government spying on their citizens to privateers and others are developing militarized uses of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And just, even just existential, um, psychological effects of certain aspects of our human connection and our human expression being ceded over to technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but here's the thing. I really think there's no avoiding it at this point. I think that just like through a digital revolution when the internet became in widespread use, and then we went through a kind of subversion of that, which is the social media revolution. The revolution that's already upon us is the AI revolution, and it's upon us. Like, we're not going to be able to turn back that clock. So the
Mm-hmm.
question now becomes like with every technology that has revolutionized human history, whether it's from the wheel to electricity, how do we use it? And we're going to have to ask ourselves that individually, but we're also going to have to ask ourselves as an education system in Trinidad, um, as writers in writers organizations, how is it best used in a way that is helpful rather than harmful? Because I mean, now, I think the internet and social media, I know you know, avoided using parts of it for a long time, but the majority of us just kind of use these things because they are widely used.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing, it's what everybody does, and it becomes, one of the primary ways, for instance, even of communicating with people overseas and all of that good stuff. But now, the darker side has definitely made itself apparent, that it's internet bullying or kids who are addicted to social media and having, mental health crises through living their lives on Instagram or TikTok. But I think with this one, with the AI revolution, hopefully we'll have more thoughtfulness in terms of, okay, I'm not just going to use things because they exist and everybody's doing it, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, how do I want to use this? Because it really is a tool, right? It
Mm-hmm.
can be used almost like a co-writer. It can be used as an editor. It can be used to help generate ideas as a writer so that you can then take the ideas and run with them. It can help you when you're stuck in the middle of a piece to help generate, plot twists or characters. So it's a tool. Like
Mm-hmm.
every tool, it's going to be in how we use it.
Ah, okay, okay. I mean, you seem to have a pretty colorful career so far. Again, your studies, short story writing, etc., and even your first book in the form of Zoo. So, what's next for Alake Pilgrim, and what is next for Zoo?
But I'm so excited that there is a Zoe book 2 coming out, God willing, next year, 2024, from Nights of. It's already written, it's with the publisher, and I'm waiting on their suggestions and edits.
Mm-hmm.
But why I'm super excited about Zoe book 2 is because it expands the world of Zoe. So
Ah,
these two main characters, Zoe Joseph and Adri Khan, who in this book have their secrets and have to figure out how to work together as a team to escape the strange creatures and the dangerous adults that they that really are trying to like manipulate them and use their gifts. Now in book 2, it actually expands to other kids as well. Zoe and Adri are there and they're going through their own story, but
mhm.
there's also some other kids from Jamaica, from Guyana, from Barbados, from
Ah,
other Caribbean islands, even from Venezuela, who each have their own unique powers. And they have to figure out now as a team, how are we going to be a team to survive the tests that they face. So I hope that people are excited as I am and look out for book 2 in 2024.
okay, okay. In terms of the persons who are listening to the program, what advice would you give to those who are interested in becoming writers professionally in the Caribbean?
Yes, I would say there's so much advice I could give, but I think I'll narrow it down to go to the bookstores and libraries, go to and writing related events, not just the Books Lit Fest and going on their site and on their social media, but also like the other day I was invited some months ago to um what essentially was like a book fair, right? For what's the name of that organization? But basically, it's an organization that encourages reading and the sharing of secondhand books. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, anytime you see something advertised to do with books and writing, and you can go, go. Most of these things are free to attend. And you go to the bookstores, you go to the libraries, and the aim of this is to actually meet and read the books that are coming out in the genre and in the age group that you're interested in. So you want it because it's already there. People are already in that genre, and people are already writing to that age group. And you want to meet those people if you can, but you also more so want to read what they're writing to
Mm-hmm.
position yourself and to understand better what you need to be doing to get your book out. Because, like as I said, some of the most exciting children's books in Trinidad are coming out from self-published writers. So I've had the pleasure of meeting and going out to schools with Miranda Dukran of Bobby and the Beehive, Philip Simon of Petra and the Pui and Petra and the Panman's Daughter, Lisa Henry of the whole Today I Am series and
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean Fruit Games, and Janan Alkin of Hatch and of The Most Magnificent, a series about a book about the Magnificent Seven,
Mm-hmm.
and so many others. So really, don't feel alone. You can feel super isolated, but don't. Try to crack that isolation by, at the very least, getting your hands on some of these books from social media on Instagram. Join the hashtag Read Caribbean uh, hashtag on Instagram and on social media, and that way you'll actually see the books and authors pop up, the events pop up, and try and
Mm-hmm.
connect yourself to that community. So you can learn from people how it's done, how they did what they did, and how they got their books written and shared with others.
Okay, I mean, that is very informative, Alake. I hope that anybody who has been listening to this, that they reach out to you and let you know how it is that they have been reliably informed, and also a lot of ideas were generated from yourself through the discussion that we have had.
Thank you. Well, if people want, they can follow me on Instagram at Alake_right. And they can see more about Zoe, but also hopefully in my stories, they'll also see what I share about other authors and other writers in this Read Caribbean extended family.
Okay, all right. Well, that brings us to the end of our interview at this time. Thank you very much for agreeing to meet with us, Miss Pilgrim.
Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you so much for doing Tropical Lit Creative. I just really think it's a tremendous initiative, and thank you so much for sharing always.
Okay, well, we're really glad, and one of our missions is to feature authors like yourself to just let persons know the creativity and the diversity that is available in the Caribbean where literature is concerned. So if your work
Yes,
are really an encouragement.
thank you.
You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.